I never thought I would walk into my sister's wedding and feel like a ghost. The family that had once laughed and fought under the same roof suddenly treated me as if I didn't exist, like I was a mistake. An embarrassment to be hidden. I had arrived early that day, carrying a gift I bought with my own money. Dressed in my best clothes, smiling, hoping to be part of the celebration. But from the moment I stepped inside the hall, I felt the cold eyes of my mother on me. Not a glance of warmth, only a silent accusation. My sister, once my closest ally in childhood, now smiled at me like I was a stranger, thinly veiling the contempt in her eyes that no one asked me to sit with the family. No one offered me food. I was pointedly ignored, my presence minimized as if I were some unwelcome shadow. And then, as if rehearsed, my father, the quiet, reserved man who had always preferred watching storms over confronting them, turned away when I approached. I knew at that moment that my entire family had decided I didn't belong, but the strangest part, the part that set my blood cold and my mind spinning, was the look in my father's eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't yell. He didn't even glance at my sister, who basked in her triumph like a queen crowning herself over me. But there was a quiet storm behind his eyes, a depth of calculation that I had never noticed before. That day, I swore silently with a steady heartbeat that I would not leave that hall powerless. Not again. I would make them feel what it meant to dismiss someone they called family, someone they thought they could crush. And I knew somehow that my father had plans too, plans that would unravel everything they had built. Growing up, our family looked perfect from the outside. Neat house, traditional values, everyone polite at gatherings. But behind closed doors, we were a battlefield. My mother, a woman of rigid principles and sharp words, had a favorite, my sister Aisha. Beautiful, charming, manipulative. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. Independent, stubborn, often critical of their petty rules. That made me a target. My father, a stoic man who rarely raised his voice, was the balance we all thought he provided. But in truth, he was a man who endured silently, collecting grudges like a miser collects coins. My mother's constant comparisons, "Why can't you be more like Aisha?" punched me daily. Even small successes were ignored if my sister achieved more, smiled brighter, or received praise. Aiza had always loved control. She whispered lies about me to anyone who would listen. "She's dramatic," she would say. "She can't handle our family properly." And people believed her. Slowly, I began to feel invisible in the very house I grew up in. The breaking point was the lead up to her wedding. I had hoped foolishly that family loyalty would override jealousy. I helped plan every detail, from selecting venues to decorating the hall, putting in hours of unpaid effort. I never asked for credit, but my mother would correct me openly, criticizing the smallest things. My sister's fiancé's family was treated with warmth while I was deliberately excluded from conversations. One evening, a week before the wedding, I overheard them plotting. Should try to embarrass Aisha. My mother whispered to the maid, "We can't have her spoiling the day." "She's harmless," the maid said. "She's clever," my mother snapped. "She needs to understand her place." Clever. I laughed quietly to myself. If they thought I was powerless, they were about to learn the opposite. And my father? He had heard it too. I saw him standing silently at the doorway, hands folded, face impassive. But there was fire in his eyes. The quiet fire of someone who never forgets. Someone who never forgives lightly. We grew up in a culture where appearances mattered more than truth. Weddings were battles of prestige, not celebration. And as much as I tried to blend in, the walls of favoritism had closed in around me. Aisha's wedding was meant to be her crowning glory, and I was to be erased from the picture entirely. The betrayal came in layers. First, the financial manipulation. My mother had promised to reimburse me for the decorations I paid for. When I asked, she feigned ignorance, claiming I had agreed to handle them myself. Aisha smiled knowingly whenever I mentioned it. Every cent I had spent was absorbed into their facade generosity, leaving me in debt while they celebrated my work as if it were a gift to them. Next came the humiliation. On the wedding day, I tried to speak to Aisha privately, offering help or a simple congratulations. She brushed me off, rolling her eyes. Then, in front of her friends, she whispered something cruel. I heard it like a slap. "Oh, she thinks she belongs here." Pathetic. The whispers spread like wildfire. Cousins, aunts, even distant relatives looked at me with thinly veiled amusement. I felt my face burn. Tears welled up, but I held them back. I had always been careful not to show weakness in front of my family, and I wouldn't start now. Then, the final betrayal. My father died, or so I thought, during the ceremony. He remained silent as my sister flaunted everything she had: beauty, wealth, admiration. He didn't intervene. He didn't look at me. He didn't speak. At first, I felt abandoned. The one person I had secretly hoped would notice my pain didn't, but late that night, after everyone left, he called me into his study. I found him surrounded by documents, ledgers, and receipts. The air smelled faintly of old paper and ink, heavy with tension. "Did you enjoy the wedding?" he asked quietly without looking up. I shrugged. "I survived." He smiled faintly, a ghost of amusement. "Good, then you'll like what's coming." I froze. "What do you mean?" He looked at me, finally locking eyes. "They think they've won. They think they've humiliated you. They think I don't notice. But everything has a cost, my child. Everything." The revelation hit me like ice water. My father hadn't abandoned me. He had been watching, calculating, waiting for the right moment. And now, he was including me in the plan. The revenge started small. First, I quietly gathered evidence of Aisha and my mother's financial mismanagement, embezzlement from wedding funds, falsified accounts, even bribes. I took pictures, saved messages, and cataloged receipts. All of it would come together like pieces of a trap. Meanwhile, my father began subtle disruptions. He leaked minor, harmless but embarrassing information to cousins, teasing them with rumors that were just plausible enough to stir paranoia. Invitations were subtly altered, seating arrangements sabotaged, social media posts quietly timed to provoke small conflicts. The family began to squirm. I watched from the shadows as tiny fractures formed in the facade. My mother complained bitterly about a series of misfortunes that no one could explain. Aisha found herself publicly contradicted by vendors, caught lying about expenses. We escalated. My father quietly arranged for their most prized financial accounts to be audited under suspicion of fraud. We planted documents suggesting tax discrepancies, creating pressure points that forced them to scramble and make mistakes. I also targeted social perception. Social media posts, carefully crafted, exposed Aisha's manipulations to distant relatives, friends, and colleagues. Her reputation, built on trust. The revenge wasn't physical. It didn't need to be. Watching them unravel, their arrogance stripped, their social masks shattered, it was cinematic. Aisha begged for mercy, but my father's calm gaze never wavered. My mother tried to argue, claiming everything was a misunderstanding, but the evidence was irrefutable. The auditors, the receipts, the messages, they could not be denied. And then, the final humiliation. The room darkened once more. My father projected a video of the wedding, edited to show my sister's cruelty in slow motion, her whispering lies, smirking at my humiliation, glaring at me with thinly veiled contempt. The hall was silent except for the faint sound of the projector. My sister's face was ashen, her hands shaking. "You thought you were untouchable," my father said. "But cruelty always has a cost." At that moment, I realized that our revenge was more than justice. It was poetic. My sister had spent her life controlling, belittling, and mocking. She had used charm to hide malice. And now, exposed for all to see, she was powerless. The final blow was legal. Our family's lawyer, silent until now, revealed that my father had quietly insured. Her wedding funds were frozen due to financial discrepancies. The luxurious honeymoon she anticipated would be delayed indefinitely. Every investment she counted on for status and lifestyle had been legally compromised. Aisha sank into a chair, trembling. My mother's face twisted in disbelief, and I watched silently, satisfaction burning quietly inside me. Days later, our house felt different, quiet, heavy with tension. My sister avoided me entirely. My mother glared but dared not speak. And my father returned to his stoic routine, leaving me alone with the understanding that sometimes silence can be louder than any scream. I never gloated. I never needed to. Watching them pay the price, experiencing the slow unraveling of arrogance and cruelty, that was reward enough. And yet, there was a lingering unease. My father and I had achieved justice, but it came with a subtle, unsettling truth. The people who hurt you most are often those who share your blood. And when betrayal runs deep, revenge careful, calculated, silent may be the only way to survive. Sometimes I catch my reflection and wonder if the quiet storms of vengeance that simmered in my father's eyes now linger in mine. Perhaps they do. Perhaps that's the cost of ensuring you are never powerless again. What would you have done in my place? Would you have walked away silently, letting your family erase you? Or would you wait patiently and ensure that betrayal, no matter how deeply hidden, pays the price it deserves? Because trust me, revenge is not loud. It's quiet. It's calculated. And when it arrives, it leaves nothing standing.